You think you're ready to go on set and direct your first film? Think again. I'm gonna give you 5 things that you might have missed. One of them involves a crane. So we did have a crane set up for our bachelor film. We were so excited, but we ended up not being able to use the scene because I'm gonna share why exactly and how to avoid that mistake later in this video. Today is gonna be about me as a director, what I decided to do creatively, which is basically the director's job. All In is about 3 people that come from very different walks of life and also have different ages. They have one thing in common, which is they lose themselves in playing poker for high amounts of money, and of course get into trouble by doing so, and also lose themselves by doing so. I had this idea in 2008. This was also inspired by the poker wave that was going on at the time. So if you remember, 2 years before, Casino Royale had just hit theaters in 2006, and there were poker parties taking place everywhere. Also, I was just interested in how to direct a poker scene. Watching back the making of from Casino Royale, Martin Campbell, the director, said the poker scenes to him were actually more challenging in terms of how to direct them than the action scenes, which is saying something for a Bond film. But of course, in his case, he had like over 10 characters sitting at the poker table at one time. So, you know, directing the camera angles and view angles is on a whole different level. And I actually got to experience that when I was directing this film, my longest film yet, my 78-minute film, because there I also had a long scene of the female detective that resolves the whole thing in a kind of Agatha Christie fashion. She's circling the room and looking at all those people, and there are 5 people sitting there, and you know, what is her position and what is the camera angle, where does she look to, and the reverse shot. And so I had a little bit of a sense of that from directing that film already, and I really had to rely on floor plans directing that film, especially for that scene, because otherwise we would not have been able to do so. And looking back to this day, like this film premiered in 2008, it works. So I already have a feature-length film under my belt. But what I got from that is use floor plans. They are so valuable. They're even, like, in the technical sense, the floor plan and the shot list are a great pairing. The floor plan is basically you looking down on the scene from a bird's eye view, and you can put in all the different camera angles, who is standing where, what way are they facing, so that's why you see the nose, who is looking at them, and where is the camera. So that's blocking, and you already do that in the floor plan. So if you have that ready before you shoot, which is what we did also for All In, all the departments know which way the camera is gonna face. So where does the art department actually have to hang the paintings, because if that side of the room is never shown, there's no point hanging paintings there. All the departments need this information very much. So after location scouting, which I covered in the video that went live 2 weeks before, comes the actual planning out of the scene. So how is the scene gonna play out? So everyone has to rely on the script and also on the floor plan. And of course, if you do an action sequence or something really important, then you can also use storyboards. We did a floor plan for every single scene on All In, and I really am grateful for that, and also a shot list that goes along with it. So in a shot list, you would say, you know, camera 1, and you can see which camera 1 is by looking at the floor plan of that scene. You see where it is. And then you have the shot. So this right here would be a medium close of me. This would be a close-up, extreme close, and you've got all the different shot sizes. And if you want me to do a dedicated video on shots, let me know in the comments. I can gladly do that. So you have the shot, and also if it's clean or if it's over the shoulder, you have more vicinity. They have something to do with each other. They are in dialogue with each other. They might have a confrontation, an argument, something to sort out. And we are all taught that you have to have conflict in every scene, so that's where that plays a role too. So in your decision as a director, if you want to have a clean shot or an over the shoulder, for instance, that should play a part. So if you go into a scene, you usually start wide and then you close in on the character, on the action and on the emotion. And then we've got the close-up for the emotionally pivotal moments. In our case, the visual style was traditional in the sense we would say today, but a lot of moving cameras. So that looked like a lot of dolly shots for us. Dolly, a vehicle that has wheels. That's a dolly. And someone, the dolly grip, pushes the dolly or pulls the dolly. We had the dolly in the barn, in the restaurant scene, and in Marco's apartment we actually have the dolly as a transition shot as well. I can insert that here. So we have, the dolly is in Marco's room, and then it moves over, and then it moves over black, and then we have in a new location in the restaurant, we move from black into the restaurant, which is one of those transitions that you do not do in post. You have to plan them for shooting. So yeah, if you want to do stuff like that, you have to think of those on set at the latest or before set. So that's where planning out your shots really comes in handy. We also had special vehicles like the police car, which is an original police car driven by police officers of our area, and we were asked to not show certain angles of the vehicles, so the number that is unique to every vehicle would not be seen, and of course we had to adhere to those limitations, and you always have to do. So we did have a crane shot there, and funny story, when we're shooting that, of course, it's a bit more complicated technically if you have a crane instead of if you just have the camera on a C-stand on sticks. So we had to do it a couple of times. And like the fifth time or so, I just told him, you're doing great. Just come driving at the same pace and same timing for you. And he's like, did I do anything wrong? And I'm like, no, but the camera has to be in focus. The tilt has to be at the right time. And, it's a lot of coordination that goes into this, but you're doing fine. You just do exactly what you did. Just same action again. And so as a director, you always have to keep in mind, those people like the policemen, they are police officers for real, so they're not actors. So they really don't know how much goes into filming such a scene, and they're like, what's taking so long? And you as a filmmaker, it's perfectly normal, but you just have to keep them at ease and say, you're doing great, and we're so grateful that you're giving your time and this vehicle to our film. So please just do the same you did. It was perfect. So yeah, and it turned out very well in the end. As you see, like it's a crane shot. You have the focus, and that is remote, and that's a learning I had from our bachelor film that I think I can link to trailer, but the whole thing is not out there for privacy reasons. Like, it's a great film, believe me, but my co-director does not want it out on the internet. She's a bit protective of the film, even though we would be allowed to show it publicly, but of course I have to respect her wishes, so that's why the whole film is not out there. The scene was at one shot, but we had to cut it because the whole thing was out of focus, because we did not have remote focus on that camera. So what point is it having a crane if you don't have the remote focus as well? That's a learning that I want to give to you, so you don't waste 2 hours for this scene and money for the crane and everything, and then in the end you won't be able to use it because it's out of focus. So, you know, invest in those vital things like remote focus. That's one key takeaway from my experience. So the visual thing was, you know, we did want to have the barn for the poker scene, and I really, to this day, I'm so happy with how the poker scenes turn out. The emotional feel, the tone of the film was so much like I envisioned it, so that came closest to my vision, thankfully, to the location, to the barn. That just turned out so beautifully, and we were able to set the lights and so on. I'm also happy with basically all the other locations. It was really great to have this apartment in Basel where the young mother is living, and we have this dark corridor that really reflects her loneliness. So what to look for in a location, if you have the ability to choose, of course. Like with your creative vision, every decision as a director has to serve that one goal of making it a cohesive film. So if my character is lonely, how can I show that? Of course, the character can play it, that's one thing, but also in her surroundings, where she's at. How does she interact? Does the space she lives in reflect this too? Or is there a contrast there, which can also be interesting? It becomes random if you haven't thought about it. And also the clothes the character is wearing. That's something that's fairly easy to do if there's an inner transformation for the character, which there should be. And if you need help with your character development, grab my free character bio template. It's linked in the description. So if, for instance, your character in the beginning of the film is isolated and lonely and she feels down, what would the character wear that feels that way? I don't think she would wear red, you know, or sun colors. She might wear something that's more muted, less flashy. And then if there's a transformation towards her being happier, she might express that in her clothing or in her jewelry or in her hairstyle or some way, you know. So bear that in mind. For Anna Maria, the young mother, in the beginning she's very down on herself. She's dressing up in the first scene by hopes of attracting the father of her kid that is married, and her kid is actually a secret to his wife. So she tries there for a minute, and then she realizes that's not gonna turn into anything that I, you know, can sustain. So that's when she meets this other love interest, and then she's wearing the sexy salsa dress that has reds in it, you know. So there's a transformation there, yeah. And it's just, the important thing is just you having thought about that and finding your own way with, of course, the head of the department. So in that case, art department and costume and makeup and hair. How do we show this transformation so it's cohesive, so it makes sense, you know? So in the beginning, she might wear no jewelry or cheap jewelry because she cannot afford it. She might have a phone with a broken display. You can show that someone is poor. You don't have to have them say, I'm poor. No one does that, you know, it's not authentic. So how do you show? In her case, there's lots of bills that she's opening, she's stressed, and she's blackmailing the father of her child to get money because she's stressed about money. But at the same time, she also doesn't really do much to earn money herself in the beginning. So that's her situation. And then as time goes on, she's playing poker, which does not improve her financial situation, but she also meets this new person that sparks the love for life that she then has again. And that's where the change happens. Whatever it is for your character, they have something that they're going through. And also, this is very important, why does your story start where it does? So in our case, the rich kid just moved to this village, so that's basically why the story starts there. So he's new, and so we see everything that's there through his eyes. And then we've got the chef that's already living there, the young mother that's already living there, but they meet through poker. And you see the rich kid, the beginning, in the restaurant, he gets to know the other two by chance in the restaurant and hears them talking about them wanting to play poker and needing someone else to play with them. So that's how they meet and start playing, the three of them. We did have a poker coach that really helped the actors up their game, so it looks convincing, like they had not been playing for the first time because they were playing for high amounts of money. So it would have been strange to have complete beginners. And there was one thing that I struggled with for a long time, because of course I know the rules of poker. If I write something like that, I have to teach myself at least how to play this game. But thinking of my audience, I was like, okay, I cannot assume that everyone that's watching poker is gonna be familiar with the game. So how do I make it so I don't lose them after minute 2 of them watching a poker scene? So what I had to figure out was, how do I make it interesting and keep it interesting for both people that love and play poker and know the rules and are willing to skip the part where I try to explain everything, and also not lose the people that are like, I've never played this game before, it's gonna be complicated, I don't think I will watch anymore, you know? You have the whole spectrum of viewers, potentially. So you have the viewers that love poker and they've played it themselves, and then you've got the other kind that are not into gambling or not into poker at all and are kind of on the fence. So how do you fix this as a storyteller? What I decided to do was, I decided to add an off commentary. It's a special thing, you know, like some people love it, some people hate it. For me, it was the character's thoughts. In that specific moment, there's one poker scene where I use that, just one, and I still think it works. So, and if you, by the way, if you want to watch the whole film, the link is in the description, so go ahead and watch it after this one. So why did I decide to add the off commentary? Well, it's just, you know, them showing what's at stake, basically. So they have the poker face part where they are playing in the scene and it's all good. And for the audience, what am I looking at here? This is, I don't know, a pair. And if I've never played poker, that doesn't tell me much. And also if I don't really look at the cards that are in the center of the table, you know, I might not add 2 and 2 together the way that a pro poker player might. So that's why I'm helping them. And also it adds a new layer to the whole scene. I still think I was creative with the whole challenge that I was facing, and I was aware of, you know, some people might get lost in this thing, and if they get lost, if they don't follow the action, then you lost them, and that's on you as a director. I also did not get any mixed feedback on the poker scenes. I think they came across clearly and were impressive as a whole. What I did get mixed feedback about was the ending. And the ending is something very difficult to pull off, and I'm being honest, I'm not happy with the ending. Like, I was going for an open ending, and it is open, but that also means that people interpret stuff into this ending that you really I did not think of, and I did not intend at all. So my learning, my key takeaway for this is next time have more time to work on the ending, because that's where our tight time frame nipped us in the bud a little bit. So we did not have time to work on the ending until it was perfect. And moving forward, that's something I swore to myself. I'm gonna work on the script until I really think it's as good as I can make it. And I'm not gonna head into shooting something that I think can be improved. Please, if you're new here, introduce yourself in the comments. It would mean so much to me to know who's watching my content. Like this video and share it with a friend that might find it useful. And you can look forward to part 3 of this series, which goes live 2 weeks from now. And that's my rhythm, usually, about post-production of All In. By the way, this is Oriana. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, producer. If you've made it this far into the video, please leave this secret emoji down in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.